Alright everyone, welcome to GMP Training today. So we're kind of going through a bit of a transition from construction into kind of like our food plant policy for good manufacturing practices. That's really what GMP stands for, is good manufacturing practices. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie. I'm the FSQA team leader here at Heritage. So if you have any questions at all, please throw your hand up. I'll try to answer it to my best ability. Just to get a kind of good feel of the room, has anybody here not worked in a food processing environment? Okay, that's good, better than the last class, so that's fine. So just a quick overview or a quick, you may hear me say things like food contact surface or ready to eat. So food contact surface basically represents a surface where food or product could actually touch. I'll take that. Okay, so that represents a food contact surface. We need to be really careful with these areas because this is where product's going to travel. We want to maintain these areas to make sure that they're clean and that they don't become contaminated. RTE or ready to eat is something that you may hear me say in this presentation. And this refers to basically product that's already been cooked. And as soon as a consumer takes it out of its package, they can go ahead and eat it. Okay, it doesn't need to be cooked, or any bacteria or pathogens in it won't be killed after that step. So just the main concern there is if you're working in a ready-to-eat environment or a packaging environment, you want to make sure you're following all of our proper GMPs and not contaminating anything in that area because it is our most vulnerable state. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll go through this presentation here. Following that presentation, we're going to go for a bit of a tour so that you're comfortable with all of the PPE requirements that you'll need to wear. So by the end of this presentation, you should have a good understanding of our GMP policy here at Heritage. You should know what kind of PPE and what kind of uniform you need to wear at those locations. I don't have any Heritage employees here, but we also have some Kronos clock location changes, which is really not your concern at this point. So focus here is GMPs and the PPE and uniform requirements. So just a quick overview of what GMP stands for and what it is. It stands for Good Manufacturing Practices. So they're basically a set of rules that we've put in place here at Heritage to ensure that we protect the product that we make from these three types of contaminants. So there are three types of contaminants: biological, chemical, and physical hazards. An example of biological hazards would be things like, microbial, bacteria, yeast and mold, that kind of stuff. Chemical hazards would be things like cleaners, lubricants. We also consider allergens to be a chemical hazard. So in the plant here, we have two types of allergens. We have milk and wheat. Physical hazards would be things like metal, wood, plastic, cardboard, anything that could end up in the product and contaminate it. So these rules that I'm about to go through, they're not there to make your life harder, make your job any harder. They're really there to protect us from these three contaminants and to protect the product and the consumer who's going to eat that product. So first off, right, when you come to work, you want to make sure you're taking that daily shower, you're wearing clean clothes, right, doing your laundry. No nail polish, false nails, or false eyelashes allowed in the facility because it could chip off, fall off, and end up in the product. Fingernails must be clean and trimmed. When you wash your hands, it must be done after exiting the washroom, before you enter the production area, and if your hands become contaminated. Okay, so proper hand washing consists of 20 seconds of vigorous rubbing of all surfaces, including your wrists, right, in between your fingers, your thumbs. A good vigorous wash for 20 seconds with water and soap. Rinse off the soap, dry your hands, and then apply a hand sanitizer. Okay, no jewelry. So this includes rings, wedding bands, right, bracelets, piercings, visible piercings, necklaces, watches. Okay, none of that is allowed in the production area because it could fall off and contaminate the product. And it's also there for your own safety. We want to make sure that you don't get pulled into a piece of equipment and possibly hurt yourself. The only exception to this rule would be medical alert jewelry. So if you have that, that's okay. No perfume or aftershave is allowed to be worn. And this is really because, you know, some people do have a sensitivity to certain smells. So we want to keep the working environments comfortable for everyone. So please do not wear those before coming to work. Use hand sanitizers, foot dips, floor trimmers, and boot scrubbers where required. So they will be in the facility through your traffic flow, so make sure you use those. Lab coats or smocks are not allowed in welfare areas or outside the plant. So these are the smocks or kind of coats that we wear. They button up the middle and they have a collar on them. I've got pictures on them later in the presentation. I'll show you what that looks like. But these cannot be worn out of the production area. Okay, so they need to be taken off and hung up on the hooks in the hallway just before you exit. Okay, sweaters with hoods must have the hood covered by the lab coat or a balaclava. So it gets kind of cold in the plant, you want to wear a hoodie, that's fine. The hood itself cannot lay on the back outside of that lab coat or smock. It has to go underneath it. If you're choosing to wear it up and over your head, or you've got a toque on, you've got a hat, that needs to be covered with a balaclava. So it's basically like a disposable kind of head shroud. It goes over your head and covers that personal clothing. Okay, so bottom line, your personal clothing just needs to be covered. All employees entering the plant must wear provided personal PPE. So as you walk through the welfare area, there'll be stations set up for you to put on all of this PPE. No items are to be carried in pockets above the waist in production areas. So we don't want you to carry anything above your waist. This is because if you were to bend over, these items could fall out onto the production floor or into the product. So everything must be stored below your waist. Gloves, sleeves, or aprons. So if you're going to be working in a ready-to-eat environment and you're going to go and touch product or touch equipment that is a food contact surface, okay, in these areas we must be wearing sleeves, gloves, and aprons, right, according to which area that you're working. So if you're going to be touching product or a food contact surface, we must have these items on. Okay, I'll go through that in some detail afterwards. These are disposable items, so once you're done with them, you just rip them off and throw them into the garbage before you leave the production area. No person with open or infected wounds or communicable diseases shall be allowed in any production area. So if you've got a cut or a wound, right, make sure it's covered with one of our metal detectable bandages. It's a blue colored bandage. Say you cut yourself at home and you put on your own bandage. When you come into our facility and you're going to go on the production floor, stop by the first aid room and change out that bandage to one of ours. We use a blue metal detectable bandage here. Change that out and then also put on a waterproof glove when you're on the production floor because you don't want that dressing to become contaminated. Okay? When we talk about communicable diseases, we're talking about something that's highly contagious, like something like SARS, right? So you don't want to be bringing that into the plant. Right? If you've got the common cold, we're okay with that. Just make sure you're coughing and sneezing away from the product, away from food contact surfaces, and into the nook of your elbow. Okay? Just so turn away and cough or sneeze. Okay. Maintain your workstation, report missing or defective broken parts. So say for example, you're working on site with us for a couple days, and the piece of equipment that you're working on was intact yesterday, and today when you come back, it's missing pieces, it's broken. Let someone in QA or operations know right away. Inform someone with a red colored hat. We need to know because if any of those pieces might have gone missing, they might have ended up in the product. Same thing goes for any type of lubricant or leaking chemical. We need to know about that in case it ended up in the product. Respect procedures for handling of meat products that have fallen on the floor. So if meat falls on the floor, don't worry about it. We don't want you to contaminate your hands and then continue working on the equipment. Somebody will come by and pick that meat up off the floor for us. Okay, all stored ingredients and processed materials must be stored appropriately to protect against potential dripping, condensation, and other contamination. So in some cases of the building, you may see condensation on the ceiling. So this is like, if you were to look up on the ceiling and you saw water droplets, if you saw one of those water droplets fall, land on a food contact surface or on product, you need to let us know right away. Let someone in QA know, let someone in operations know, someone with a red hat, because we need to address that right away. We need to address the product and the equipment because that water is not clean, right? right? It's from the ceiling. So we need to know about that. Respect process container designations and color-coded equipment. No eating or drinking in production areas, washrooms, locker rooms, or change rooms. So eating and food storage is strictly to be done in the cafeteria. So if you're here on site for a while, you got a lunch to store, we have fridges and cubby holes for you to do that in. But definitely no gum chewing, no lozenges or candy allowed on the production floor. Okay, it could potentially fall out and fall into the product. No glassware is to be brought into production areas. So if you've got equipment that is made of glass, right, it's not allowed on the production site. We do have some glass items on our production floor. If you happen to notice that they might be broken or shattered, let us know right away so we can address that, because if glass could potentially be in the product. Exterior doors and windows are to remain shut. So this is a big difference between yesterday and today. All of our emergency exit doors, all of the outside exit doors, those are all to remain shut. Please do not keep them ajar or wedge things into the doors. These are no longer entry and exit points unless there is an emergency. Okay, so everybody coming in and out of the plant for their work, for their daily job, will be coming through the traffic flow that I'm going to show you here today. All right, so please do not enter or exit through these doors going forward. Okay. This is a nut-free facility, so no peanuts, no almonds, cashews, any type of nut. This includes peanut butter, right? Granola bars or chocolate bars that have those items in them are not allowed in the facility. All visitors and contractors must follow all outlined GMPs and must be identified and escorted into production areas. So at no point in time will you be allowed to just kind of roam free through the plant and kind of do your work. All your work has to be approved and has to be cleared with FSQA, production, and our reliability team before you can start that job. Okay, especially in the area that you're working in, the room, make sure you find the production supervisor, the person, the team lead, right, with the red hat. Make sure they know that you're there and that you're going to be performing work in that room. Sliding doors are for equipment and product only, and personnel are to use man doors, right? So if you're not moving equipment, you should not be using the sliding man doors, or sorry, the sliding doors. You should be walking through the man doors. If you're not using the door, make sure it maintains shut as well. No PPE is to be removed from the premises. So if you are issued a freezer jacket, in most cases in this room you won't, but if you are issued a freezer jacket, it becomes soiled, bring it to our supply room and they will supply you with a clean one. Okay, but none of the PPE that you're going to be wearing on the production floor is allowed to be brought outside the building. Okay, so that includes the helmet that we provide you, the freezer jacket, the overpant or smock, all that needs to come off before you exit onto out of the plant. Smoking is permitted only past the blue fence by the parking lot, at the receptacle, and not in the building, right? So, right, no smoking in the building, no smoking along the pathway to get to this area, right? It can only be done in this designated area. Your cigarette butts must be thrown into the receptacle. They cannot just be flung here and there, right? All goes into the receptacle. So if you are working on a job in the building, remember you need to take off all that PPE before you head outside and go for that cigarette. So we do have some X-ray detectable equipment and supplies. So if you have requirements for a pen on the job or any of these items, just let someone in FSQA know and we will provide you with that item. So if you have stuff on you today, it cannot go in there unless it's an approved piece of or office supply. Okay, so some maintenance specific GMPs. So when you're going to do your job, make sure that your tools are clean, right? If you're working on a food contact surface, make sure that they're sanitized with the alcohol sanitizer in the production area. Make sure you're following your tool accountability. So I brought 5 tools out to do the job, I'm bringing 5 tools back. If you lose any of your tools, make sure you inform someone right away, right? Tell anybody with a red hat, the process leader, anyone in FSQA, because we need to assess where that tool went. If you're bringing chemicals, lubricants on site, they must be CFIA approved. So CFIA is a government body for food production. It stands for Canadian Food Inspection Agency. The chemical or lubricant that you use must be on their list of approved chemicals. So if you're unsure of that chemical being approved, let someone in, you can talk to someone in FSQA, or you can talk to someone on our reliability team. And it's basically just a website, and if the chemical name is listed there, it's a registered chemical. The other point is about kind of temporary repairs. You want to make sure you're not using, duct tape, or twist tie, basically anything that's going to unravel and fall into the product. We want to make sure that our repairs are substantial and they're going to hold in place for a substantial amount of time. Visitors and contractors. So in order to enter the facility, you must have GMP training, health and safety training, and the people systems training. Okay, so you're getting your GMP training today. Make sure you have the other two before you enter the facility. Visitors and contractors will require specific training, and so team leaders in the area must approve your work. So like I mentioned earlier, don't just go in and perform your work, right? It needs to be an approved job, and the supervisor or the team leader in that area needs to know that you're there. So I'm just going to go through some pictures, go through this with some pictures so that you have a better idea. So as you enter the facility or the welfare area, if you're working on site and you're going to have lunch here, you brought a lunch today, you put it into the fridge and then pour into the cubby. You would then proceed to our boot changeover. So we don't want any street shoes or anything that goes on your shoes coming into our facility. So this is where we require you to change out. So if you are a Heritage employee and you were issued Wilsons, you would sit down, remove your street shoes, flip over the bench, grab your Wilsons and the corresponding cubby on the other side, and put those on. For contractors and visitors, you're going to put on a bootie. It's like a disposable shoe cover. We'll have those available for you there. So you'd sit down, put on the shoe cover, flip over the bench, and then proceed then to the change room. We'll go through that today so you can get a good feeling of what that looks like. Once you have your Wilsons or your slip cover on, sorry. So this is an example of the bootie slip cover that you wear. Okay, so once from there, you would proceed into the change room. If you are a Heritage employee and you're issued a locker, you'll put away your personal belongings, basically anything that you don't need for your job. You will pull out your freezer coat and your hard hat, and you will grab a pair of overpants. So they are ranging from sizes of, I believe, extra small up to double XL. So find the size that fits and throw those on. Also, don't forget to remove your jewelry at this point. So if you work at Heritage. For the contractor plant, you're going to make sure it's removed well before you enter this area of the plant. If you're on the raw side, you're going to put on a white overpant. If you're on the ready-to-eat side, the packaging side, so this is primary, secondary, tertiary, you're going to put on a blue pant. If you're going into primary packaging, you're going to wear a light blue pant. If you're going into secondary and tertiary, you're going to put on a dark blue pant. And I will show you some pictures. Okay, so PPE requirements. Once you've got your overpant on and you come through the change room, you're going to end up in a hallway where there'll be some stainless steel tables there to put on some PPE. So if you are on the raw side, you will require a hairnet and earplugs. Okay, if you have a beard or mustache, you need to make sure that's covered with a beard net. If you have, like I talked about earlier, a hoodie or you're wearing a toque or anything like that, you most likely need to wear a balaclava. Right, because you want to cover all of your personal clothing with our PPE. If you've got a beard and you're wearing a toque or you're wearing personal gear, the beard net is not required as long as you have the mask up and over your nose. Okay, but if you're clean shaven and you've got a hoodie on or a toque, the mask can be worn under your chin. Okay, for ready to eat, for packaging, okay, a hairnet and earplugs are required, mandatory. If you're going into primary packaging, balaclava is mandatory. Mask has to be up and over your nose. If you're going into secondary, tertiary packaging, the balaclava is not required. And again, same thing with the beard net. If you've got a beard, cover it up. Okay. Also at this station will be a spot to kind of wipe down your helmet. So make sure you spray your helmet with that alcohol sanitizer or alcohol cleaning wipes and wipe down your helmet before you head into the production floor. Very important for our visitors and contractors. You may have already been on the construction site, it may be dirty and dusty. Really important that you keep that clean before you head into production. Okay, so once you have put on your PPE, you're going to proceed into our boot change room. Okay, so there's going to be another set of benches there. At this point, this is where you would take off your Wilson flip-flops if you're a Heritage employee. If you're a visitor or contractor, you will take off your street shoe and bootie combo and throw it into an available cubby hole. If you were with Heritage, you would put it into your designated cubby with your number on it. You would make your you would flip over the bench and then you would proceed to grab a pair of boots. If you're a Heritage employee, you would grab your specific boots with your number on it. If you're a visitor or contractor, we're going to have a set of numbers for you guys, so just grab a pair of boots that fit you. On the raw side, your boots will be white. If you're going into primary packaging, your boots will be like a bluish green color. And if you're into secondary tertiary, your boots will be black. Okay, so I have some examples here up in the front of the room here. So raw, primary, and secondary tertiary packaging. So once you've put on your boots, then you're going to proceed and put on, wash your hands and put on a smock. So you'll proceed into the turnstile, right? It's a turn signal, so you put your hands in, it'll be red. Right? When you put your hands in, it'll sense that your hands are there. Squirt soap on your hands and it'll turn green and allow you to proceed through. From there, you'll rub your hands vigorously for 20 seconds, right? Wash off the soap, dry your hands, and then proceed to grab a smock or a coat. So if you're on the raw side, you'll be grabbing a white one. If you're going to primary packaging, you'll grab a light blue. If you're going to secondary, tertiary packaging, you'll grab a dark blue. Okay, then you'll get sanitizer in your hands and then proceed out onto the production floor. Okay, so if you are going to be touching product or you'll be touching a food contact surface, you'll need further PPE at that stage. So if you're on the raw side, you'll be putting on purple gloves and a white apron. If you're on the ready-to-eat side, primary packaging, you'll be wearing a blue apron and blue gloves, the peeling apron and blue gloves. And in secondary, tertiary packaging, aprons are not required at this point because the product's already in a package or it's already in a carton. So if you need to wear gloves, they would be blue. Okay, so just a quick note about Listeria. Listeria monocytogenes is commonly known as Listeria. It's a type of bacteria or a pathogen that basically it's found in food, in nature, right, in water and soil. It can cause a rare but serious disease called listeriosis, and in some serious cases it can lead to a brain infection and possible death. So Maple Leaf as a company did experience this in 2008 when we did issue a recall, which actually resulted in the death of 23 people. So Listeria is actually, something we try to control in all of our plants, and we put these GMP policies in place to help control pathogens just like Listeria. So we ask that you take them seriously, right? Follow the rules when you're out there, and protect, whoever's going to eat this product, whether it's you, me, your family, or mine. Because we're functioning in a construction zone, you may go from a construction area to a non-construction area if you're a contractor. So we just ask that you be careful to respect these signs that say danger, do not enter. They are a construction zone on the other side of that wall. So we don't want you to track in possible Listeria in those areas, dust or debris, when coming into the production floor. So if you see a sign like this, please respect it, do not enter it. If you need to go into a construction area after being on the production floor, you need to leave the production area just the way that you came in, get back into your construction PPE, and then enter the construction site through that main entrance. All right? So just avoid any type of cross-contamination. Same thing goes for if you've had some work done on the raw side and you need to go onto the ready-to-eat side. They have completely different welfare and boot changeover areas. So if you're on the raw side, you need to kind of, you know, get back into your street clothes and your street shoes, and then head upstairs to go into the ready-to-eat side and do that whole boot changeover to go into there. Okay, there's no direct access without doing a PPE change. Okay. Any questions? Yes?
You mentioned each particular boot is for a different area of the plant. Now, as a contractor, we're going to be wearing the booties, right?
Just up until the boot change.
Okay, so that keeps your street shoes clean?
Yes, in the welfare area.
Right, and then, so then you pick your boots from there?
Correct.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. I knew that as a contractor, we got to wear the booties, but I wasn't sure if we could wear the booties.
No, yeah, you'll change out of your booties and you'll put on a pair of these boots. Yeah, we'll go through it together downstairs. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have a list of all the team leads so that when we get the worker group to talk to, or whichever area within protection?
Yeah, we can get you a list of all the team leads, like for each room and area, I guess. Yeah, definitely.
When we're bringing equipment in, so it has to be all clean, sterile, what's the procedure to get stuff like that in?
So it depends on what you're bringing. Are you talking about tools or actually equipment that's going to be
Tools
installed?
and like a welder, a bottle of gas.
Right, so is it coming in on wheels or is it
Yeah, it'll probably come in on a cart.
on a cart? Okay, so we'll have to talk about that offline because it'll probably be case by case basis. But yeah, definitely we can address that. Okay, so if there's no